get giveaways before the Grum is over. Tickets to Flop, Sweat and Tears, Sauce, Common, Larry Mondello Guy, Colleen Justice. Cinema Grill this Friday. One show only, 7:30. Tickets available at cinemagrill.com. We'll give away a pair of tickets later. Also, Lil B will send the street team out in mass this week. Late in the evening, early mornings, they'll be shattering driver's side windows and cars all across the Twin Cities, placing Flop, Sweat and Tears tickets on your dashboard. Think how lucky you would be.
Oh, boy.
And, of course, tickets are available at cinemagrill.com. And a $100 gift card to 5-Iron Golf is so sweet. It's in the North Loop. It's the latest addition to simulator golf in the Twin Cities. Just a cool vibe. Love it. And chef-inspired food, craft cocktails. You lounge around. You hit knockdown, punch, cut, fade draws. You go to 5-Iron Golf enough, you won't be saying 4 anymore. I can trust me. We'll give away a $100 gift card later. But right now it's time for 5, 3, 4 on the Fan.
Time now for 5 questions. Well, actually 3, but 5 sounds like more than 4. Question number 1.
It's now time to take an in-depth look at the welfare of the Wolves.
Anthony Edwards put up 20 of his 41 points in the fourth quarter as the Wolves won at Washington, 120-106 last night. Julius Randle tallied 20 points and 10 boards, while Rudy Gobert added 11 points and 11 rebounds. Common, what sticks out to you from the Wolves' win last night in Washington?
Well, that we beat the worst team in the NBA. Record-wise, nobody is worse than the Capitals. No, that's the hockey team. What's the
Wizards?
Wizards. They So again, that's all good. Beat the teams you're supposed to beat, but I don't put any stock into that win. You're supposed to win that game, and they let them hang around too. It was one of those games where it's like blow them out. They don't like to do that. No NBA teams do. You fool around for a while, and when you're playing a superior team or inferior team, and then you stretch in the locker room, okay, let's turn it on. That's great. It's better to win than lose, and so we just keep marching toward hopefully a playoff spot. We'll see what happens when postseason play begins. I'm not real optimistic, but yeah, good for the Wolves.
Question number 2. It's time now for the lowdown in Dinkytown.
What is the lowdown in Dinkytown, Tanner?
It's low. It's definitely low. The Gophers lost again last night following, I should say the Gophers men's basketball team lost again last night following 77-71 at Maryland. The Gophers are off to their worst conference start since going 0-13 in the 2014-2015 season under Richard Pitino. Gophers were up 42-35 early in the second half before the Terrapins went on a 19-6 run. Common, your thoughts?
We're just not very good, apparently. I'm assuming I'm not watching any Gopher basketball this year. I think I caught a glimpse of it early. One of the first 2 games of the season. Maybe it was Michigan State or something. I don't remember. There's some talent there. The kid from Cherry, I can never pronounce Isaac's last name, even though baby brother Peter played AAU basketball with him for Sizzle. We want the smoke, by the way. He's one local kid. He can flat out play. He's a really good. They have other talent. I mean, who is the Garcia guy's good? I like our pal here at the Fan, Fox. Some other talent, but it's just it kind of pales in comparison. We talked about nil money. A lot of our nice pieces on our team left for greener pastures, and I don't know if we're ever going to get a bunch of money. I know they got the Dinkytown Consortium or whatever it's called that tries to raise nil money, and until you start providing players with big fat stacks of booster provided cash, I don't think you're going to get the key players. And the Big Ten's tough, Denby. It's a big, tough, physical conference with plenty of good basketball teams. So I don't know what the answer is. One of my basketball guys actually played for the Gophers years ago. He heard our conversation. He said it ain't Ben. And and we said yesterday, I don't know, Ben might be a great X's and O's guy. He might even be a good recruiter, but when you don't have the almighty dollar in your back pocket and can't dangle, hey, I can pay you, $200,000 to play basketball with us, or $1 million, or any money at all. Maybe some Panakukin gift cards. Brilliant. But we don't have any of that, so I think that's our biggest issue, I guess.
Question number 3.
We got a lot of money.
And now it's time to go In the trenches.
All right, here we go.
According to Jeff Darlington of ESPN, Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator, former Minnesota Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer, is contemplating retirement. Zimmer is 68 years old. Common, if Zimmer is done, what was your favorite Mike Zimmer coaching memory?
I love Fat Cats Get Slaughtered.
Yeah.
That was good. I like Zimmer being Zimmer. That's just Zimmer being Zimmer. I also liked, probably the very best was when Cousin pushed him.
Yes.
He got all PO'd and pushed him back.
I love Zimmer press conferences.
Yeah, they were
I like the
always
battles
good.
between him and, what was the former Pioneer Press guy's name? Who's now in Denver?
Yeah.
Chris Thomason.
And then, and this was kind of mean, but it literally was the truth when he said, "Why aren't you playing?" What was the backup quarterback? He goes, "Because I've seen him in practice."
Kellen Mond.
Yeah. Why aren't you playing Mond? I see Kellen Mond in practice. In other words, what he's saying, if you watch practice, you know Kellen Mond doesn't have what it takes to play in the league. And Zim was right.
Yeah.
So, Zim was a character. He much like Belichick, has a much younger, gorgeous wife, right?
I think they just get engaged or just get married.
They're engaged.
I think just have it, yeah.
I mean, it's like he's old enough to be her grandfather, which is cool.
Sure.
You know, my second wife hasn't even been born yet, for crying out loud. And then Belichick, same thing. Isn't his gal like,
Yep.
I think she's like 19 or 20, early 20s. I don't know. So good for them. But Zim's got he's got plenty of other things he can do other than coach football, it looks like to me.
Question number 3. And now it's time to go in the trenches.
The reason Zimmer might be retiring is because new coaching staff in Dallas, and the Dallas Cowboys are in the early stages of their search to replace Mike McCarthy as their head coach. One name is already known.
Deion.
Former Cowboys cornerback and current Colorado coach Deion Sanders. According to ESPN, a source said Cowboys owner and general manager Jerry Jones and Sanders spoke on Monday. And while an interview has not been scheduled, the two are expected to continue their dialogue. Common, should the Cowboys hire Coach Prime?
I think this quote was before the opening, but I saw somewhere on my handheld computer, which doubles as a communication device, one of those clickbait stories that said, Deion says he would consider coaching the NFL under one condition. Oh, what could that be? And I bet it was like if he could coach his kids. He wants to coach his kids again. So I suppose, where does Dallas draft?
They got to be in the top half of the draft.
And so and then...
By the way, we know the Vikings are now picking 24th after last night's loss.
Yeah, well, they're the 9th best team in the league this year.
One of the last 9 remaining.
Correct. Can't argue. So then again, it's...
Dallas has picked 12.
He has 2 sons that play football. They both seniors, or is just one a senior? Shadur, is that the quarterback?
Shadur's the quarterback, yeah.
And is he graduating this year? Is he done?
I don't know if he's graduating or if he's just eligible for...
Okay.
Well, I mean, he's definitely played 3 years. He's been 2 at Colorado and played 1 at least one at Florida Atlantic.
So
right?
I guess what I'm saying is if you can hold Deion to his word, if he indeed would go, he would leave Colorado to coach his kids, because it's cool. You're coaching your kids now. It's fun. It's fun to, it can be trying as well, because then you got to worry about people thinking you're favoring your kids and stuff, blah, blah, blah. But he said he would do that. So then I would suppose you'd have to, whoever, are they done with their general manager in Dallas, or is he hanging around?
Well, Jerry Jones pretty much is the general manager.
So then you got to tell Jerry, I'm sure he said, well, if you can draft Shadur, I'm in. But we got to find a way to get him. So then does he work the phones? Can you start working phones already about the draft? I'm not sure what the rules are. But I don't know if there's any guarantee he's going to get Shadur. And then if you do, what do you do with Dak? I think Dak's overrated and I always have. I mean, he's talented, but you kidding me? What is he making? How much does he make in a year? He makes
a lot.
30, 35, 40
more
million
than that. He's like in the 50 range.
You kidding me? So, I guess if that, I'll have to take him at his word. If he can coach his son, so he would probably take the Dallas job. But you'd have to take the job before the draft, so I don't know if there's any guarantee. So I don't know. We'll that's 534 for you. Tenneby's got a keyword to try to put $1,000 in somebody's hand, I think.
Yes, the fan wants to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. Just enter the keyword grand at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. The keyword is grand. Enter it now at KFAN.com. Chime into what's happening with your favorite KFAN program. Make your voice heard on the Brad, Sean, Brian text line. Let us know what you have to say by texting your message to 64686. That's 64686. Standard message and data rates apply.
A lot of people were sending me emails last night. Late last night when I got home, it was about 10:30. There was the woman I thought I knew in the arms of another man. I kept my cool. I ain't no fool. Let me tell you what happened then. I packed my things and I walked out, and I ain't going back again. You miss playing that, don't you, tend to be?
Yes, I do.
CW a call and take a letter, Maria. So, but I got it late last night and then early this morning and from fans venting, maybe looking for some guidance, looking for a shoulder to cry on. There was also this one. This is an email that actually came in before. This came in yesterday at 11:55, just before we went on the air, to be a comment at KFAN.com. It says, Vikings fan taking offers to not go to the game. That's the subject line. Reads as follows. Comment. Here is a summary of the past 6 sporting events I've been to in person for the Vikings, Timberwolves, and Twins. 11/15/2023, Timberwolves at Suns. Wolves lost to the Suns by 20. Oh, by the way, also Diamondbacks he threw in there because, you know, he's living down in Phoenix, Arizona, all the way to Tacoma, Philadelphia, Atlanta, LA. Northern California, where the girls are warm. 10/31/2023, Diamondbacks versus Rangers. D-backs lost 10-0. Or they lost. They were down 10-0 in the third inning. He was at that game.
Oh.
September 3rd, 2023, Twins at Rangers. Garcia walk-off home run to beat the Twins. 9/19/21, Vikings at Cards. Greg Joseph misses field goal. They lose the game. 10/28/2018, Vikes versus Saints. Sunday Night Football beat down by the Saints. And then on 11/6/2016, Vikings versus Detroit, Golden Tate walk-off OT tutty. That's when... Who was that guy, that really long kicker that kicked for Detroit for years? What the hell was his name? You know, the guy.
Akers?
Yeah, no, before him.
Prater,
Matt Prater. That's what Deuce and I were at that game. Prater kicked like a 58-yarder at the buzzer. Then the Lions got the kickoff to start overtime, and they drove down the field. It was like a hot knife through butter. And that's when Golden Tate got the tut. He did a front flip into the end zone. And U.S. Bank Stadium turned into a library at that point. You could hear a pin drop. I purposely skipped the Wolves-Suns playoff series last year. He purposely skipped it, Tennant, because he was worried it was him.
Yeah. I can see why.
And guess what? The Wolves won.
Yeah.
I'm planning to be in attendance at the Rams game tonight. I'm taking offers not to go to the game. I wished I would have saw this earlier because I wasn't able to get him any offers. So maybe he went to the game. Maybe it's Cole. That's his first name. Cole in Scottsdale. Maybe it's his fault.
Thanks, Cole.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Ruin everything.
This came in at 9:04 last night. It says, hello, Dan. I'm quite perplexed with the Vikings. Why did they deactivate Jones after moving him up to number 2? Is KOC throwing the game to dump number 14 without controversy? Is he trying to keep Flores as a DC? I'd rather have been 6-11 with a better draft choice. Guess what? They continue to break our hearts with false accolades. KOC is 0-2 in the playoffs after going 13-4 and 14-3. Coach of the year? I don't think so. The Vikings could not beat veteran QBs. That tells us something about our defense, and the 4 losses totally outcoached. I think that had something to do with it. I mean, it's very complicated. I played the game, both sides of the ball, so I probably understand it a bit better than a lot of people. But yeah, we talked about it. I think sometimes coaching can be overrated. And the other thing is there are other really good coaches in the league. There's a reason the Rams won a big game before, right? because McVay and what he's put together there, and that's pretty good organization. And then the loss to the Giants, that was kind of inexplicable. I mean, that was a game. I guess that was just that was more smoke and mirrors. A lot of blame. Donatel was basically the whipping boy there. He was your scapegoat. I tend to think that was a little overrated as well, and everybody's disappointed on the Kirk Cousins check down, and that was not a very good play, but I don't think it would have made much of a difference. There was nobody else open, so if he'd thrown it, probably would have been incomplete, but we'll never know, and it's neither here nor there.
Did the email say, why did they deactivate Daniel Jones after making him number 2?
Yeah.
When did they make him number 2?
Well, they never did make him.
No, they didn't. Yeah.
And I will say this. I suggested, and I know people say this because I'm a Lions fan as well as a Vikings fan. I know people can't wrap their heads around that. They don't believe you can be both. But I thought the Coach of the Year race came down to the final game of the season, and I thought Campbell won it with the win in Detroit. I know I got pushback from a lot of people who said, well, wait a minute now. That team was expected to do well after what happened last year. The Vikings were predicted by many, including Las Vegas, to only win 6 games. Well, right, and you can make that argument. If you want to vote for Kevin O'Connell, that's fine. But in the biggest game of the season, one team seemed to be much more prepared than the other team, especially a team that Lions defense is as bad as I would look at the numbers, folks. I know I keep bringing it up. Look at those numbers. The last 3 or 4 games of the season, they were the worst defense in the NFL. That's why, and the cavalry's not coming there. They got Anzalone back, which I think was the difference in the Vikings game. I think Anzalone was the reason Detroit won that game. Had Anzalone not come back, I don't think Detroit wins. He was that disruptive on defense for Detroit. But I just think there's something going on in Detroit that's working quite well for them right now, and the Vikings don't quite have it. And we always talk about culture. Our culture here is better than every team talks about their culture. Our culture is better than any other team. Did you see what Peyton Manning said? Did you see that story? I'll get you that story on the other side. I don't think I did see that. I'll get you that story on the other side of the break. Before we go to break, let's squeeze in a phone call here if I can get the mouse to find. Here she be. This is Todd calling. He wants to talk Vikings football. Todd, what you got on your mind?
Oh, hey, Colin. I have a couple things. I'll try to be brief. First, for anyone who's piling on Sam Darnold, yeah, you didn't play great the past 2 games, but people may not realize, and Fran Tarkenton, 3 Super Bowls, 1 touchdown pass, 6 interceptions. And also, I was born when Kennedy was president, so I lived through all of those. Another item. How about field goals? What do you think of this? Any field goal kicked from under 20 yards where the ball is placed is 2 points.
Yeah, that's been suggested. Yeah, and the further it goes, 3 points, 4 points. I don't know how high you want to go.
4 points.
Yeah. Todd, thanks for the phone call.
I don't like that at all.
Sorry about the argument. I don't like it either. I don't like changing that. That's too dramatic of it.
So there's a team going to intentionally not try to gain yards so they can kick a longer field goal for more points? That's a bad idea.
Right. I don't like it at all. I also don't like the idea of pushing the 3-point line back any further because you know what? They'll still shoot from back there. They're just encouraging them. Oh, you don't think I can get it from back here? Watch how good I am now. So I think that's not a very good idea as well. Peyton Manning. Not Painting Manning, but Peyton Manning. There are 2 different people, tend to be. He had some interesting things to say about Kevin O'Connell. We'll get to that. But before we do that, let's find out what's going on over at the Fuse Box. What you got, Tanner?
Yeah, this is Wild Today, brought to you by Jim Beam, the official bourbon of the Minnesota Wild. The Minnesota Wild are preparing for the Edmonton Oilers, who they play tomorrow night in St. Paul. Kirill Kaprizov, Brock Faber, Jonas Brodin, Jared Spurgeon, and Jacob Lacko were not at practice today, though Faber, Spurgeon, and Lacko did skate today with the injured group before practice. Edmonton just 1 point behind the Wild in the Western Conference standings. Oilers wallop the Wild 7-1 back on December 12th. Wild host the Oilers tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. at XL Energy Center. You'll hear that game right here on The Fan. That was Wild Today, brought to you by Jim Beam, a crowd pleaser since 1795.
vomiting rats. Human excrement. That'd be a hell of a concert. I think I might want to go. So I teased Peyton Manning. I would compare his work to Renoir, Monet, and Van Gogh. There's also Peyton Manning. CBSSports.com clickbait story. This was yesterday, 19 hours ago, as a matter of fact. It's about a 1 minute to read. Peyton Manning reveals 2025 NFL playoff coach he'd most want to play for. And the answer may surprise you. NFL playoffs are chock full of respected leaders, from Super Bowl winners like Andy Reid and Sean McVay to aspiring champs like Danny Campbell and Sean McDermott. Hall of Fame and title-winning quarterback Peyton Manning likes one coach above the rest of those still standing. His favorite? Minnesota Vikings' Kevin O'Connell.
Really?
Manning told ESPN, asked which playoff coach he'd most like to play for. I have a lot of respect for the way he coaches. It's about the players. It's about him putting them in a position to succeed. He's got no ego. I think he's a dynamic play caller. It's been fun to see Sam's success with him. I wonder if he'd change his mind now. I don't know. Let's do some talkbacks, Tenneby. There are a number of ways you can contact us here at the Fan. One would be the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line, 64686, 1-800-320-5326. That's how Todd got a hold of us. Tenneby actually answered the phone. He saw it ringing. He's so busy in there, it's difficult to see it ringing. So it just is. I'm sorry. And then we've had it disconnected a couple of times. I don't think we paid our AT&T bill for about a month and a half. So sometimes it's not there for us. And then there's also booth@kfan.com. And then there's the Talkback iHeartRadio app. If you don't have it, download it. We've improved it. It's new and improved, much like the Common Man program is new and improved for 2025. You'll find you search stations, find the Fan. Click the microphone icon in the corner of the screen, and then you have 30 seconds or less to deliver us a audio message. Let's kind of take them in the order in which they were received. Here's your first one, Tenneby. By the way, like we always did on the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line and booth@kfan.com, we take the 5 C's. Compliments, complaints, concerns, comments, and questions. Here's a 5C.
Oh, we hear you loud and clear, Dan. When it's KOC, coaching's overrated. But if it's Dan Campbell or Sean McVay, other coaches are brilliant. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we know where your heart really lies.
That sounds like Nordo, doesn't it? Had a little Nordo at the very end. I think Nordo didn't do a very good job of disguising his voice. He can't be a regular listener to the show. I'm critical. It doesn't matter what the sport is, what the team is, where it's based, whether I am a fan of that team or not. I calls them as I sees them. As a matter of fact, I picked the Vikings to win last night. I thought the Vikings are going to beat the Lions. I know there are people who say, oh, that's just your, what's the word I'm looking for? It's sort of a, you're trying to protect yourself, right? It's like, well, if you say, it's like I do tend to be, it's the pessimist optimist thing. I'm guilty of it oftentimes, much of the time. If you expect the worst to happen, if you expect the best to happen, if you're an optimist, and you expect the best to happen, and it does, you just go, oh, okay. Well, I knew that was going to happen anyways. And then if the worst happens, you're devastated. If you're a pessimist and say, we got no chance to win, you win. Or if you lose, you go, I knew it was going to happen anyway, so it's easier to accept. If you do win, you go, I cannot believe what just happened. So I think when it comes to sports, that's a healthy way if you want to keep yourself sane and emotionally intact. That's what Grok should have said earlier today when we asked Grok. Grok, of course, is Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter. It's their AI system. And I said, what should Viking fans do now? And it had all this wishy-washy, kumbaya, hug and kiss and all that. What are you talking about, man? That's hard to do that. So the way you accept it is you have a pessimistic approach to your local teams. But I thought the way the Vikings were playing with the Lions decimated at defense, I thought the Vikings were going to win that game. They got totally outplayed, and Sam was terrible, but Beeflo's KOC had no answer for what Detroit was doing. We talked about it. Detroit blitzed, was it like 50% of the time, and did man coverage, which is supposed to be suicide against the Vikings. But their defensive line provided, or offensive line didn't provide much protection, and Sam did hold onto the ball too long, as he did again last night. But as we talked about earlier, when you take the 2 seconds to drop back and you look and there's 4 guys in your face, you're supposed to just fire if he would have just fired the ball downfield and it got picked up, he'd go, what are you doing with the ball? You got to throw that away, or you got to run, or you got to fall down. I mean, people just, it's. So anyway, I'm just calling and asking, let me ask you a question, Tenneby. Of the 3 coaches, O'Connell, Campbell, and McVay, how many of them have won a big game?
1.
Well, who is that?
Sean McVay.
He was very good. So he's won a big one. How many times did they beat the Vikings this year?
Those 2 teams have combined for 4 wins over the Vikings.
Yeah, so the Rams have won 2, and the Vikings not. Yeah. Dan Campbell. By the way, how many playoff games has KOC coached to victory?
0.
He's 0-2. What's Dan Campbell's record as a playoff coach?
Were they 1-1? Were they 2-1 last year?
Would have been.
Or they 1-1 last year?
No, it would have been 2-1. Because they didn't get it. They didn't.
Yeah.
They had.
So they won their first 2 and then lost.
Yeah, they beat Tampa Bay and they beat the Rams.
Yep.
So they went 2-1. So what are they now? Well, we haven't played this year. 2-1. And then what was the record of Dan Campbell coached Lions teams over Vikings coached teams this year?
2-0.
Okay. Means KLC is 0-2. What's KOC's coaching record against Dan Campbell in the 6 games they faced each other?
I believe he's 1-5. Yeah.
And so I'm just doing this because it's McVay, and I'm not even taking what happened on the field. I'm just saying, well, and why would I like McVay? Why would I be a fan? I'm not a Rams fan. I like Matty Stafford. I watched every game, almost every single game he played in the Lions uniform. He was really a good football player. And he's continued that success. Well, he didn't have a lot of success as a team, but individually he was very good. He got the Lions to a couple of playoff games, back in the day. I think they twice went as wild cards with him, got bounced in the first game, but I think they got the Lions to wild cards. So,
seems like he's done a lot better with coaching.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with where my heart lies. Here's one.
Hey, my name's Michael from St. Louis Park. Just wanted to bring up one thing about the Vikings game. Has anyone else noticed since Meat Sauce has had his son, Louis Lampert, that the Vikings are now 0-2? Just something that I thought about.
Can't argue with it. I don't know what it means. Do you think Louis is a Packers fan and we don't know it yet?
What's the first letter in Louis' name?
L.
2 L's. Louis Lambert.
We have 2 losses.
We've had 2 L's.
Oh my gosh! You are above average at that.
Couldn't he have put off the birth until like late February?
Get a C-section.
Get a C-section in late February is what you should have done. See what's next. I think this is the next one.
One of the things I believe the Vikings have got to take a harder look at is they are still not getting any depth out of the draft. You look at Detroit and you look at LA. Both teams had injuries and still produce outstanding backup players by the end of the year, which the Vikings don't have.
Well, I don't think the Vikings ever had to rely on a lot of backup players. They stayed healthy pretty much the entire season. Now, if you want to say there might have been some less than stellar performances from starters at certain times of the year, particularly these last 2 games, you might wanted to have replaced them. Maybe they don't have a lot of depth. And in Detroit, really, they've gone through a lot of their depth. They have 2 or 3 guys, I think, that are started on defense that weren't even on teams when the season started. Called guys that were sitting on the couch because that's how desperate they got. But, yeah, I mean, depth is obviously key in football. Maybe, again, you always want to think of your starting 22 and your special teams. And sometimes I think even somebody like me who's played the game at a very high level, I was a fierce pass-rushing, rocket Gibraltar run-stopping, a defensive lineman, and a precise route-running, a pass-catching tight end. You sometimes forget about depth. You feel like, well, here's our starters. But as we see over and over and over again, very seldom do teams stay healthy during the entire. They say, relatively. I mean, teams can stay relatively healthy, but nobody basically. I don't think, for the most part, starts the season with the same starting 22, ends the season with the same starting 22 they started the season with. And sometimes,
and it's not just a depth thing. Like, in a salary cap world, it is not sustainable to be successful without hitting on draft picks.
Correct.
And the Rams, if you recall, like during the Matthew Stafford years, they were giving up all their high draft picks. And I was like, thinking to myself, well, they're going to be a one-hit wonder. They're never going to be able to do a competitive rebuild because they've just given up so much draft equity. Well, what they've now done is they've nailed low-round draft picks.
Yep.
Like, you just look at the offensive line. We already talked about Puka Nacua. He was a fifth-round pick. Kyron Williams, fifth-round pick. All right, and then they finally had a first-round pick this last year, and the first couple picks, they got some defensive linemen, and versus look spectacular.
Yeah.
Right? So the minimal amount of picks they've had, they are nailing. And the Vikings have not done that under Kwesi Adofo-Mensah's tenure, and that needs to change moving forward.
And Detroit's hit on a number. They drafted offensive linemen for a long time. I don't know. I guess Philadelphia is now considered the best. They got 3 guys in the Pro Bowl. The Lions are considered one of the best offensive lines, and they hit it on Gibbs and Anzalone. And
I'm eager to see that Rams pass rush against that Philadelphia offensive line, because I think we might get to see how our offensive line compares to that. And even last night, when Brian O'Neill was on roller skates going backwards, I'm like, we're in trouble. When our best offensive lineman is having a tough time, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, you're on to something. You're not on something with that slant passes. Where the hell did they go? Can't hold the ball. This Viking offense is not downfield every play. I mean, it's great that they go downfield, but their offensive line is garbage. And Sam's pinky, what's been going on with that? Thanks, I'll hang up.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that injury had anything to do with his mediocre at best performances the last 2 games, but I know he had something. And yeah, he had something wrong with his hand. And it's like, I'm not seeing the all 22 wide, so I'm not going to suggest that all the Vikings do is try to throw long, but it seems like for the most part, that's kind of their calling card, that they don't run those shorter.
Well, I do wonder, because Sam's ankle has been beat up a couple times, like ankle foot area.
Yeah.
And he ain't Lamar Jackson, but he came in as a relatively athletic guy, and it seems like he's kind of stopped running.
Yeah.
And when you looked at the game last night with all the pressure he was getting, it would have been nice for him to be able to escape the pocket occasionally and punish them with a 15-yard gain occasionally to throw off their pass rush. And he just seemed like he had no eagerness or desire to try to do that.
Hey, Common-Tenna. This is Kevin from Delano. Just want to get your thoughts about how we played Detroit and LA these last 2 games. It's almost like we looked worse this time of year against them than we did earlier in the middle of the season. Did they get that much better? Did we decline? A little bit of both? Your thoughts?
I think it could be a little bit of both, and I think it's also game planning. When you've played a team before, you kind of know strengths and weaknesses. Again, the Lions were 2-0 against the Vikings, and so were the Rams. I mean, the Vikings only lost 4 games this year. And they lost those 4 games to 2 teams, Detroit and L.A. And so, were they outcoached in both games? I don't know. I can't say for sure, but I think that is, if you're going to give the coaches all the credit when they succeed, and we got to back the Brinks truck up to B-Flow's bank, because we have to pay him whatever he wants to stay, make him the highest paid coach in the history of pro football. And KOC's the quarterback whisperer, and he's brilliant, and give him the $12 million extension, and people want to trade for him. Well, if you can praise them for when they win games and do well and put good game plans together, when they get beat, they got to take some criticism as well.
It is 2 coaching staffs familiar with KOC, right? You have the team in your division that you faced 6 times, and then you have a Rams team that you not only played earlier this year, but KOC was on Sean McVay's staff. So it might just be 2 coaching staffs that figured him out when the rest of the league really hasn't figured him out.
If you thought those talkbacks were controversial, tend to be, wait till you get a load of this one.
Hey, Common. Matt here from Burnsville. There is no pay difference between being a garbage person and a recycle person. We're all paid pretty much the same. Most difference is seniority. So the longer you've been there, the more you get paid. See you later, my boy.
Very controversial. We started the show off by talking about, do recycling guys for the sanitation company and the garbage guys get along, or are they at each other's?
He didn't really answer that aspect of it, though.
Other people are.
He stayed away from
It's a
it.
lot more difficult because you have everybody's boxes. Nobody puts their boxes in their trash cart. I work for a trash company that does your city.
You can't really hear it.
Sounds like he's in the garbage truck as we speak.
It sounds like he was in a trash compactor and about to die. I hope that wasn't the case. Here's what he said, because I've got the text with it. Recycling is a lot more difficult because you have everybody's boxes and nobody puts their boxes in their trash cart. I work for a trash company. That trash and recycling garbage is a lot more easy. Recycling is a lot harder because you have to get out of the truck, actually, and put the boxes in manually. I break down my boxes, don't you?
Yeah.
I break them down and fold them all up so I can get more into the I don't like the top of my recycling bin or my garbage bin to be open. In the summer, if your garbage bin's open, next thing you know, you got flies and maggots in your garbage can. And then if you have the recycling open and the wind blows at night, blows it open, your stuff scatters all over the neighborhood. So I break down my boxes.
I got 2 recycling bins.
Do you?
Yeah.
A little more expensive, but
well worth it.
Well worth it.
It's a tough it's a tough time of the year for recycling too, because after Christmas, you're just loading those things up.
Hey, Common, coming to you here from Juneau, Alaska. I'm a garbage man and a recycle man. It pays the same. There's no animosity. We work as a team. I often start with my recycle and then help with trash. Have a nice day. Keep it up, me boy.
Oh,
there you go.
Seems like it's nice up there in Juneau.
Yeah. There's no animosity. It's teamwork.
Yeah.
You know what? Up in Juneau, Alaska, the recyclers and the garbage, that trash company's got a great culture. No, they do.
It does, yeah.
They've got a hell of a culture up there because they get along, treated well.
He seems like a good employee.
Seems like a really good employee. Yeah. Matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, the trash company he works for, they did a poll of all trash guys up there, and they said they'd most like to work for that trash company. Much like most players said they'd like to play for Sam Darnold or for Kevin O'Connell and B-Flow and the rest. And part of that reason is you get to go on vacation earlier every year. You don't run. You know what? We're going to rebound from this. We're going to all bond together. We're going to get together on the chat board, social chat boards. We're going to talk this thing out. We're all going to feel better about those 2 humiliating losses the last 2 games. Child, things are going to get easier. Maybe we need a little child coming back. No, they can't do that. Licensing and that. ASCAP, BMI, and all the rest. But anyways, so Vikings lose. Rest of the playoffs are set now. Kansas City, Houston at Burrowhead. That's the early game Saturday. Kitties will host Washington in the evening affair Saturday. Then Sunday, is it Ravens-Bills? No, Ravens-Bills is the night game, right? I think they saved that one for the evening.
I think that's the last one, yeah.
Because that should be, on paper, that appears to be the biggest. You know, those are a couple of Titans playing each other.
Ravens are favored, by the way, by a point in that game at Buffalo.
And then what would the early game be? Who am I missing?
Well, the Sunday early game is Rams.
Oh, yes,
Eagles.
Rams-Eagles. Those actually might
Texans are playing in their comfortable Saturday first game spot.
Those 2 Sunday games might be better than the Saturday games. I think don't you agree? I mean, Philadelphia, LA, I think could be a really good
Detroit, Washington could be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I still think of the 4, I would still say, just by, handicapping the way I see football, Ravens-Bills should be a slugfest.
Yep.
That's a street fight. And if you're going to get ready for a street fight, then both teams better be getting ready right now. And then I just think it's a great matchup, Rams-Philly. That one might be the most interesting games to me, the way the Rams have been playing. I think they can give Philadelphia all the way. And, of course, we hate Philadelphia fans here with a passion. So,
see, for me, just pure entertainment value, I love watching Detroit's offense, and I like watching Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
So it could be a little bit of a shootout there.
It'll be fun. Yeah, I'm looking forward
to it. Be a showdown in Motown is what it's going to be.
It's going to be a showdown. Mark Rosen is waiting in the wings. He's going to join us here in a couple of seconds. Let's do one of those giveaways, Tenneby, as we go to break. I've been telling you about 5-iron golf. They're in the North Loop. It's your ultimate winter escape. They TrackMan technology, chef-inspired cuisine. It's really sweet, great food. I was there. Craft cocktails, really a laid-back atmosphere, and you got a lot of room inside your hitting bay. You know, couches and coffee tables, the whole thing. So it's a great vibe. It's a great feel. You can play some of the iconic courses around the country, including around the world, as a matter of fact, including Pebble Beach, one of the favorites. You can just play games or just practice, whatever you want to do. You can start a league, or there's all sorts of ways to enjoy 5-iron golf, and this will help you. $100 gift card to maximize your first trip. Be the 11th caller at 1-800-320-5326. It's 1-800-320-5326. You'll be a winner from the Common Man, 5-iron golf, and all of us here at the Fan.